Well, hey, everybody, and welcome again to the Experience Makers Show. This is episode number 26, and my name is Dan Gingiss, customer experience speaker and coach. And I'm so happy that you have joined me again this week as we talk to another experience maker, somebody who is in charge of or improves customer experience in the organization in which they work, or who helps others do the same. And this week, I am super excited to introduce you to somebody who does both, who works in an organization and works on customer experience, but also helps lots of other people do the same. Stacy Sherman is the Director of Customer Experience and Employee Engagement at Schindler Elevator. Let's try that again. At Schindler Elevator Corporation. She's a member of the Forbes Communications Council, and she also runs Doing CX Right, which we'll talk about. Stacy, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Excited to be here.
I am excited too because you're one of my comparatively newer CX friends. I think we met up, I want to say maybe late last year for the first time. Does that sound about right?
Yes, definitely. I think we both saw each other on social media a lot and then had to meet and took it the old-fashioned way and talked offline.
Which was awesome. And that was such a
Yes.
great way to get to know you, and super excited that you are here today. So, for people who are watching, please leave your questions in the comments of LinkedIn or Twitter/Periscope, and we'll be happy to get to your questions and comments later in the show. And for those that don't know you, Stacy, how about a little bit of background on you and the various different pies that you have your fingers in?
Yeah, I do. I wear a lot of hats. So as you mentioned, I am leading customer experience at a global corporation. And I've been in the corporate world for a very long time, as well as small, mid-sized companies in digital marketing, sales, and then customer experience has been more relatively over the past 5, 6 years, where it's like a real field. It's a career path. And I've consciously decided to go that path and encourage others too, because there's so much that I've learned from doing the job that it differentiates brands. It's not a guess, it's not a hunch, it's a fact. So yes, my background is leading that in a corporation, but then also working on my side passion projects of doing CX right. .com. I hope people visit. And that's really about sharing best practices and what others can do that, again, it's way bigger than price. So speaking, writing, and doing some of the similar things you're doing to inspire others.
That's awesome. And I like to say a similar thing, which is that competing on price is a loser's game, because you just have to ask the gas station down the street that's got its competitor on the other corner, and they keep lowering the price by a penny a gallon, and eventually they're giving it away. And competing on product or service is becoming more and more difficult because everything is so copyable. And even when you look at a really innovative company like Uber now has a whole lot of competition that looks a lot like it. And so what's left if you can't compete on those two things is customer experience. And that's what keeps you and I excited about what we get to do every day, which I think is an added bonus. I'm going to throw up on the screen there, doingcxright.com. For those that want to go check out your work, and I highly recommend it. I like to share a lot of Stacy's content because she's one of those people that she's made the inner circle for me of people who I trust what they write, even if I haven't read the entire thing. I know it's great, and so I love sharing your stuff. But
Thank you.
so tell me a little bit about customer experience at an elevator company. Help me out there. Walk me through what that's about.
It's about humanizing business. It's about really, it doesn't matter what company you're at. It doesn't matter what industry. If you talk about the human basics, it's about people. People buy from people. People continue buying from brands and people they trust. And so the fundamental aspects of it is delivering on the promise and delivering on when a customer needs you, making it a low level of effort, making it a delightful experience. And during COVID, it's especially important because we have a lot of technicians and people out there in fixing elevators and escalators. And it's about, they're working the front line there, and they're the face of the company. So I always like to say that while I head up customer experience in North America, everybody owns CX, not just one person or organization.
Yeah, and I want to dive into that. Let's go that route. I was going to ask you a different question, but I want to dive into that a little bit. So this idea of a department within a company that owns CX, or everybody owning CX, or some combination of the two, because obviously the argument against everyone owning CX is then it becomes nobody's job. So how do you balance the need for everyone to care about it and to sort of integrate it into how they think and strategize, along with having to have somebody like you who is focused on it every day, who's graded on it, who's bonused on it, whatever it is, so that nothing slips through the cracks?
Yeah. So again, every company, same principle. You need executive champions at the top. They have to set the culture. And then you have your different leaders under there to help drive what we call the drumbeat. And so it's a top down and a bottoms up. And it's a matter of training. It's a matter of sharing best practices. It takes a village, honestly, to make it happen. But customers feel it. They know it. They know when you're checking a box. And the key is employee satisfaction, employee happiness, employee empowerment. When that happens, right, when you have the champion at the top and you have employees that own the customer experience, that's how the magic happens.
Yeah, I mean, we often say it's really hard to ask employees to provide a great customer experience when either they're not having a good experience as an employee, or they don't really know what a great customer experience looks like because maybe they haven't had one themselves. So we got a question from our mutual buddy, Chris Strub, and I was going to ask a similar question, so I'm going to tack mine on top of it. So here's Chris's question. He says, do people really seek a delightful experience in an elevator, though, or a simple one? And the part that I wanted to tack on was, an elevator to me seems like something that if I had a problem, I might attach the problem to the building owner or the company or something, but not to the manufacturer of the elevator. Can you talk a little bit about kind of who gets the blame for when stuff goes wrong?
Yeah, so I'll simplify a big question, which is really our focus when we talk about customer experience. This is a B2B play here. So there's B2B, but there's a consumer, a rider at the end. And the point is that it's our property managers. It's the building that maintain everything in that building, right? It's the roof, it's the elevators, it's everything. So that's who I'm talking about in terms of when they need help, when they call for service. And there's the service side, but there's also a new installation side of the business, and there's modernization. But regardless, it's a customer journey. So our part as CX leaders is to make sure that those property managers, those customers, however you define in your industry, is the customer journey is designed where it meets their needs every point of the way. And then measuring how well did the brand deliver on that experience. And again, I'm trying to make it broad because the industry I'm in is rather unique, but it applies to all service industries. It applies to every company that, doing the basics, but also measuring the customer delight, measuring the customer satisfaction at all those different touch points.
That's okay. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, you're basically a B to B to C, but a lot of your satisfaction or engagement is with that B, which makes a ton of sense.
But keep in mind, if the rider is unhappy, they tell, right, the building owner, and then it comes right back to us. So we care about everybody's experience, everybody's safety. I mean, I can go on and on, but yeah, so it's a full holistic approach.
Gotcha. There we go. That's what I was trying to share while you were talking about that. Awesome. So let's shift then to your other persona, which is the doing CX right, Stacy Sherman. Tell me about that, and especially, I mean, what I'm curious about, because I too came from corporate America, is how are you balancing working on this stuff, which is your sort of passion project, with your full-time job?
Yeah, so I couldn't have done this a couple years back, but now I have two college kids. I became an empty nester, then COVID hit and they're home, but they're probably going back. And so, what I used to spend time on with them is now more open space for me. So, it's given me the opportunity to work on these kind of initiatives, writing a book, writing for Forbes. These are things that I do at night on weekends. Some people go play golf. I'm doing this. So, and it's pretty ironic you brought up the website, because my website is launching a completely new in the next 24 hours. So,
Oh, wow.
pretty
That's awesome.
ironic.
Well, I'm gonna throw that back up there again, though, so people can write it down and go back in 24 hours, and
Yeah.
we'll take a look at the we can do an old versus new comparison. So
Right.
that's awesome. So what can you tell us about? I heard you drop in the B word there, book. Can you tell us anything about that?
Yeah. So, out of bad COVID comes great, which is a book. And I say that because I've been invited to collaborate on a book that's international, people like me in all different countries. And so we created a book. It's on Kindle now. If they go to Amazon, Stacy Sherman, it's Kindle now, and the paperback's coming out in a week or two. And the beauty of it is that, one, I wouldn't have met all these people had COVID not happened. There's a lot of networking and a lot of knowledge sharing I find during this time period. So, anyway, so I wrote about voice of customer and why it's a company game changer and best practices. And so, what's really neat, one is that it's international, but two is that I'm doing another book that's actually for Brazil. So I don't know that it's going to be in English. I don't even know I'll get to read it, but it's the same concept, different topics. So it looks like internationally CX is really booming, and a hunger for that knowledge.
Yeah, it's funny. I wrote the foreword to a book that was written in Italian, and you can't do this because your kids are in college. But I tricked my little 12-year-old and said, "Look, Dad wrote something in Italian," and she's like, "I didn't know you knew Italian."
Right.
So I'm like, man,
Yeah,
I have all sorts of skills you don't know about. Um,
exactly. That's great.
so that's cool. Well, and the balancing, though, I mean, I did that for a long time before I went off on my own, and I know what you mean about whether you play golf over the weekend or whether you decide to sit down and write or do something that is kind of your own hobby. And of course, our also mutual friend Nate Brown wants us to know he does love him some golf. And by the way, don't ever let Nate convince you to go golfing if there's any money on the line, because Nate is an outstanding golfer, and he's very modest about it. But anyway, sometimes I forget to do this, and I'm glad I'm remembering today. Is when people sign up and agree to be guests on my show, I ask them to remind me of a customer experience story that they want to tell. And sometimes I forget to go back and look at that story that I remembered with you. And in fact, I remember that you've told me this story, so I'm excited. I'm going to bring up a little picture here just to give you a little reminder, if I can. Come on, show it.
There,
There we go.
I knew it was
There we
coming.
go.
Yeah, it is
So
so good.
I can't help but notice that you have your own chips.
Exactly, right? So, yeah, I'm famous. In my mind, I am. So, yeah, this is such a good story. Years ago, I was home and I got a box in the mail and it said to Stacy from Stacy. And I wasn't expecting anything. And so I bring the box in and I open it. And there was, make a very long story short, a box of Stacy's chips. I mean, a big box, lots of bags. And there was a note and it said, to Stacy, I'm sending my chips to all the Stacys in America who spell their name like me without an E. So, because I called my friends who spell Stacey, and they didn't get the chips. So I was amazed. So anyway, she did this amazing creative called marketing awareness, whatever that you want to say, but it was this personalized note in the box. It was this sampling of chips. And guess what? It is years later, and I am still telling this story and amazed. So I know that story did a couple things for me. One is it inspired me to be creative like that. And it reinforces the experience and what wow moments, right? What people remember in wow moments, and we all could do that. It's in our control. So there's a lot of lessons from it.
It's absolutely in our control, and I love that story because it's one of those things that on the surface seems so easy and obvious, and yet nobody thinks of them, right? And I've been telling a story. It's going to be in my new book about a restaurant we went to right before COVID hit. We celebrated my son's 14th birthday. He wanted to go to a steakhouse, so we went to Fleming's, and we told them ahead of time that it was my son's birthday. And we walked in, and the maitre d' handed him a hand signed birthday card. And I was like, that's amazing. That's I've never seen that before. And he sort of winked at him and said, hey, we got something for you later. And at that moment, I knew that what the something was not going to be, a slice of cake, because that's what every
Yeah.
restaurant does. And so of course it wasn't. They brought out this beautiful box of homemade chocolates, and the box was beautiful. The chocolates were beautiful, and it had on the plate they had used cocoa powder to spell out "Happy Birthday" in cursive, and I mean and then instead of a candle, they had a sparkler. And so the whole thing, just your eyes were drawn to it. And I thought, this wasn't that hard for them to just do something a little bit different and a little bit out of the ordinary. But man, is it memorable! And that got me thinking. This is why I'm connecting these two stories about how many companies know our birthday and how many companies do anything about it. The number of
Mm.
times you have to fill out a form and put your birthday on it, or the number of times you show your driver's license to somebody at the airport, at the hotel, whatever it is, they have an opportunity to capture our birthday and use it. And it's so rarely done. And so I love that Stacy did the same thing with somebody's name, is obviously captured their name and then used it. So it's brilliant stuff. And no, not everybody's company out there has a name that they can match like Stacy, but the idea is to be inspired by it and think creatively, as you said. So I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to elaborate a piggyback on your story about the restaurant. So I had a similar experience, not about a birthday. So we were at a restaurant with my family, and the waiter accidentally dropped food on my jacket, a white jacket, and you can imagine the color display on my
Hmm.
jacket. But here's what's so cool, that the waiter obviously apologized, walked away, came back so quickly, gave me certificates to, one, go get dry cleaning, to come back to the restaurant. And here's the coolest part that I want everybody to take away. This waiter didn't need manager's approval. He did what was right. He was empowered to do what was right for the customer, me, in the moment. And we need more of that. We need to enable frontline customer service reps, right, to take care of the customer without approvals and processes. Like, just do what's right. I'm not saying process doesn't matter, but we have to humanize it too.
Yeah, totally agree. And you know what? I'll bet that sure, the waiter was embarrassed that he spilled the food, but I'll bet that being empowered to help rescue the situation removes a lot of the embarrassment or the bad feelings behind it, right? Because it would suck even more if he spilled food on you and then wasn't allowed to do anything, or other than say he was sorry. So I think it's great, and the fact that he proactively thought to make it up to you, I think was awesome. Nathan, thank you. Great story. I agree. Thank you, Nathan, for being here and watching the show. So we only have a couple minutes left. This is, I always like to call it the fastest half an hour of my week, because it's so much fun and I always have so many questions. So where do you think CX is going in the next year or so, especially given what's going on in the world around us? We've got a pandemic. We've got a Black Lives Matter movement. We've got an election coming up in the United States. We got all sorts of stuff going on around the world. What effect do you think all of that has on CX, and where are we going to go between this summer and next summer?
So I believe that we have to get very smart and enhance experiences through digital. We always have, but now we have to get even more sophisticated without losing the human element, right? So this kind of through a screen, we're talking, we're communicating, we're connecting. More of that has to happen, and the players out there, the platforms that enable that are going to be thriving. I believe that employee engagement, employee experience is going to take even more importance. Diversity of thought, inclusion, that is exponentially more a bigger focus. I see that in every company, including where I work. So I think the two, digital and the focus on employee experiences, is where it's going exponentially more.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. The only thing I would add is I think that one of the key elements of experience is going to be safety, and that people are going to have to feel safe about anything participating in your business before they're going to come back. But that starts with employees too. If employees don't feel safe, they're not going to be able to make customers feel safe. So that's really critical. And I agree on the digital front. I think a lot of companies that were slow to adopt digital are getting there a lot faster than they might have otherwise. And I think we're going to find with a lot of things that some of the digital part is going to stay. I mean, I'll give you an example. I am one of those weird people that loves grocery shopping, and yet I've kind of really dug this order online and go pick it up curbside. It's a lot faster. I don't waste an hour and a half of my weekend. And so I may continue doing that even when I don't have to anymore. And so I'm guessing I'm not going to be alone on that, because that's the kind of enhanced experience where once you do it and you're like, man, I'm glad to get this hour and a half back. It's when we talk about our passion projects on the weekend, that's 6 hours a month I can use to write a book or something.
Yeah.
And so I do think that this digital stuff is going to have to stay. And so as you're building it now, build it for the long term.
How about appreciation that Amazon, the 2-day delivery didn't happen for some time? Like, how about that appreciation? Like,
and everyone went nuts, right?
Complete. What do you mean it's going to be 2 weeks? No,
Yeah.
Amazon, no. And to conclude, I love that you brought up safety, especially where I work. That's the number one core value. But what I think also is happening is safety is now not just the physical safety, but the mental safety is now where we're shifting. It's both mental and physical.
Absolutely. I think that's a great point. All right, Stacy, I'm going to put up your website one more time. This is Stacy Sherman. She's the Director of Customer Experience and Employee Engagement at Schindler Elevator Corporation, which I was able to say this time. And also, she heads up doingcxright.com. Don't visit it today, people. Write it down and visit it in 24 hours when we have a brand new website, so all of her numbers can get inflated, and we'll see a massive drive there. Stacy, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. It's always a pleasure to talk with you. Keep doing the great stuff. I'll keep sharing your content because I love it. And thank you again for your time.
Thank you. So much fun. Appreciate it.
You got it. Next week, we are going to have an old buddy of mine, actually, my podcast co-host, Joey Coleman, customer experience speaker, author, and of course, podcaster with yours truly. We're going to have some fun, as Joey and I always do. We play off each other very well, which is why we've been doing this podcast thing for a while. And a little bit early, but our sixth season of the Experience This show will be coming out in early September. So we're very excited about that, and it'll be fun to welcome Joey next week. This is Dan Gingiss, customer experience speaker and coach, and you've been watching The Experience Maker. Thank you so much for joining us. We will be back next week and every Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern right here on LinkedIn and Twitter/Periscope. Have a great weekend.